When was the last time you spent 3 hours cooking Sunday dinner just because you loved your family? The smell of gravy simmering and families gathering around tables once defined American Sundays. But microwave meals replaced the comfort foods that brought generations together. Today, we're exploring 25 forgotten Sunday dinners that deserve a comeback. Salisbury steak with mashed potatoes and peas. Salisbury steak ruled the Sunday table in the 1960s, transforming humble ground beef into something that felt fancy. Named after a Civil War doctor who believed in the power of meat, this dish combined seasoned ground beef patties with a rich mushroom gravy that made everything better. The magic happened in the cast iron skillet, where the patties seared to perfection before swimming in that velvety brown gravy. Fluffy mashed potatoes caught every drop, while bright green peas added color and crunch. Kids would make little gravy lakes in their potatoes, and adults would savor the comfort of a meal that tasted like home. This wasn't just dinner, it was theater. The sizzling skillet arrived at the table like a star making an entrance, steam rising, filling the dining room with the promise of satisfaction. Every bite delivered on that promise. Tomato soup meatloaf. Campbell's tomato soup transformed ordinary meatloaf into something extraordinary, creating a glaze that caramelized into sweet, tangy perfection. This innovation of the 1950s turned a simple ground beef mixture into a Sunday showstopper that kids actually wanted to eat. The soup worked double duty, mixed into the meat for moisture and flavor, then brushed on top for a glossy finish that made the meatloaf look like it belonged in a magazine. The result was a perfect balance of savory and sweet, with a texture that sliced beautifully and held together on the fork. Served with mashed potatoes and green beans, tomato soup meatloaf proved that innovation in the kitchen often came from the most unexpected places. Sometimes the best ideas were hiding right there in the pantry, waiting for someone creative enough to see their potential. Chicken and rice casserole. Before meal prep became a hashtag, there was chicken and rice casserole, the original one-dish wonder. This golden-topped masterpiece combined tender chicken pieces with fluffy rice, vegetables, and a creamy sauce that held everything together like a warm hug. The beauty lay in its simplicity. Leftover chicken found new life mixed with rice, cream of mushroom soup, and whatever vegetables lived in the refrigerator. Topped with buttery breadcrumbs or crushed crackers, it baked until bubbly and golden, filling the house with the kind of smell that called everyone home. Each family had their secret touches. Some added water chestnuts for crunch, others threw in a handful of frozen peas. The dish forgave every variation, adapting to what was available while always delivering comfort on a plate. Baked spaghetti. Regular spaghetti was fine for weeknights, but Sunday called for baked spaghetti, the casserole version that elevated simple pasta into something special. Layers of spaghetti, meat sauce, and melted cheese created a dish that could feed a crowd while looking effortlessly elegant. The transformation happened in the oven, where the top layer of cheese turned golden and slightly crispy, while the underneath stayed creamy and rich. The pasta absorbed flavors from the sauce, creating deeper, more complex tastes than its stovetop cousin could ever achieve. Every family had their own version. Some added cottage cheese for extra richness, others layered in vegetables or different meats. The dish welcomed creativity while maintaining its essential character. Comfort food that felt special enough for Sunday dinner, easy enough for busy cooks to manage. Ham and bean soup. A leftover ham bone became the foundation for rich, satisfying soup that stretched one meal into many while delivering incredible flavor and nutrition. Navy beans slow-cooked until creamy absorbed all the smoky ham flavors, while vegetables added color and texture that made each bowl complete. The soup improved with time as the flavors deepened and melded together into perfect harmony. Served with cornbread, it provided warmth and sustenance that carried families through cold Sunday afternoons. This was frugal cooking that celebrated abundance through simplicity, proving that the best meals often came from making something from nothing. The aroma alone was enough to bring everyone to the table. chicken and dumplings. Nothing said Sunday quite like chicken and dumplings simmering on the stove, filling the house with the aroma of comfort itself. This dish combined tender chicken pieces with fluffy, cloud-like dumplings in a broth so rich it could cure whatever ailed you. The process began early, with a whole chicken simmering until it fell off the bone. That golden broth became the foundation for everything that followed. The dumplings, part biscuit, part pasta, part magic, were dropped into the bubbling liquid, where they puffed and absorbed all the flavors around them. Each spoonful delivered layers of comfort: silky broth, tender chicken, vegetables that had given their all to the pot, and those heavenly dumplings that seemed to melt on the tongue. This was medicine for the soul, served in bowls that never seemed quite big enough. Baked beans with bacon and brown sugar. Baked beans with bacon and brown sugar transformed simple navy beans into a rich, complex side dish that complemented everything from fried chicken to barbecued ribs. The slow cooking process allowed flavors to meld and deepen, creating beans that were more than the sum of their parts. The bacon rendered its fat into the beans, providing richness and smoky flavor that penetrated every bean. Brown sugar and molasses added sweetness that balanced the saltiness of the pork, while onions contributed depth and complexity to the overall flavor profile. Long, slow baking in a covered pot allowed the beans to absorb all these flavors while developing their own rich sauce. The result was a dish that tasted like it had been simmering all day, because it had, and provided the perfect sweet and savory accompaniment to Sunday dinner. Smothered cube steak with onions. Cube steak earned its name from the mechanical pounding that turned tough cuts tender, and Sunday dinner gave it the royal treatment. Dredged in seasoned flour and pan-fried until golden, these steaks disappeared under a blanket of caramelized onions and rich brown gravy. The process was pure alchemy. Tough meat became fork tender through the magic of time and technique. Onions cooked slowly until they turned sweet and golden, creating a base for gravy that would make grown men weep. The steak simmered in this bath of flavor until they surrendered completely. Served over mashed potatoes or egg noodles, smothered cube steak proved that luxury didn't require expensive ingredients, just patience, skill, and the understanding that the best things come to those who wait. The gravy alone could turn a simple Sunday into a celebration. Salmon patties with ranch-style beans. Canned salmon transformed into golden patties proved that Sunday dinner didn't always require fresh ingredients to be special. Mixed with eggs, breadcrumbs, and seasonings, then pan-fried until crispy, these patties delivered protein and flavor at a fraction of the cost of fresh fish. The trick was in the seasoning: onion powder, a little mustard, maybe some fresh herbs if you had them. The patties held together just well enough to flip without falling apart, creating a crispy exterior that gave way to tender, flaky fish inside. Paired with ranch-style beans, pinto beans in a sweet and tangy sauce, this combination offered protein, fiber, and satisfaction. The beans' molasses-rich sauce complemented the crispy salmon patties perfectly, creating a meal that felt both hearty and sophisticated enough for Sunday dinner. Creamed chicken over biscuits. Creamed chicken over biscuits transformed leftover poultry into a dish fit for company, combining tender chicken pieces in a rich white sauce served over fluffy, buttery biscuits. This dish proved that elegance didn't require exotic ingredients, just skill in creating the perfect cream sauce. The secret was in the roux, that careful combination of butter and flour cooked just long enough to eliminate any raw flour taste, but not so long as to darken the color. Milk or cream whisked in slowly created a velvety base that cradled chunks of chicken, peas, and sometimes carrots or celery. Served over warm biscuits that soaked up every drop of that luxurious sauce, creamed chicken delivered comfort and sophistication in equal measure. This was the kind of dish that made ordinary Sundays feel special, turning simple ingredients into something that tasted like love. Ham with pineapple slices. The glazed ham studded with pineapple rings and maraschino cherries was the centerpiece that announced special occasions. This tropical meets traditional combination created a sweet and salty symphony that defined elegant Sunday dining in mid-century America. The pineapple juice worked its way into the ham during baking, creating a glaze that turned mahogany dark and slightly caramelized. Those perfect pineapple rings, secured with toothpicks and topped with bright red cherries, turned a simple ham into something that looked like it belonged at a fancy hotel buffet. Carving the ham became a ceremony, with thin slices revealing the beautiful spiral pattern and releasing clouds of aromatic steam. Each bite combined the smoky saltiness of ham with the sweet brightness of pineapple, a flavor combination that somehow made perfect sense when families gathered around the Sunday table. Oven-fried chicken. When deep frying seemed like too much work but regular baked chicken felt too plain, oven-fried chicken stepped in to save Sunday dinner. Coated in seasoned flour or breadcrumbs, then baked until golden and crispy, this chicken delivered all the satisfaction of fried without the mess. The coating, whether flour mixed with spices or crushed cornflakes for extra crunch, adhered to chicken pieces that had been dipped in milk or beaten eggs. The oven's steady heat created an even golden crust that stayed crispy, while the meat inside stayed juicy and tender. This method let busy cooks prepare other dishes while the chicken baked unattended, making it perfect for Sunday dinners when timing mattered. The result looked and tasted like the fried chicken of special occasions, but without requiring someone to stand over a pot of bubbling oil. Classic potato salad. No Sunday dinner was complete without a big bowl of classic potato salad, creamy and tangy with chunks of hard-boiled eggs and the crunch of celery. This wasn't just a side dish, it was the cooling counterpoint to whatever heated main course graced the table. The potatoes, boiled until just tender but not falling apart, were the foundation for a dressing that balanced mayonnaise's richness with the sharp bite of mustard and vinegar. Hard-boiled eggs added protein and visual appeal, while celery provided texture and freshness. Every family had their own touches. Some added sweet pickle relish, others preferred dill. Some included onions, others thought that was sacrilege, but every version shared that essential quality, the ability to make any meal feel more complete, more celebratory, more like Sunday dinner should be. Pigs in a blanket. Pigs in a blanket wrapped cocktail sausages in buttery pastry, creating bite-sized bundles of joy that appealed to kids and adults alike. These little appetizers prove that sometimes the simplest ideas were the most brilliant, turning two basic ingredients into something irresistible. The process was almost meditative, rolling each little sausage in its pastry blanket, sealing the edges, arranging them on baking sheets like tiny sleeping bags. The oven transformed them into golden, flaky packages that steamed when bitten, releasing the savory filling inside. Served with mustard for dipping or eaten straight from the serving platter, pigs in a blanket brought a touch of whimsy to Sunday dinner. They proved that elegant didn't always mean complicated. Sometimes the best dishes were the ones that made people smile. Pimento cheese spread. Pimento cheese spread, known as the caviar of the South, combined sharp cheddar cheese with sweet pimentos and mayonnaise to create a spread that was equally at home on crackers or in sandwiches. This simple mixture achieved a complexity of flavor that made it irresistible. The key was in the cheese. It had to be sharp enough to stand up to the other ingredients, but not so sharp as to overwhelm them. Hand-grated cheese melted better into the mayonnaise than pre-shredded, creating a smoother, more cohesive spread. The pimentos added color, sweetness, and a subtle pepper flavor that brightened the rich cheese. Some cooks added a dash of hot sauce or Worcestershire for extra complexity. Served with crackers or spread on white bread for sandwiches, pimento cheese was comfort food at its finest. Shrimp wiggle. Shrimp Wiggle combined cooked shrimp with a creamy sauce and served it over toast or rice, creating an elegant dish that felt much more sophisticated than its playful name suggested. This dish brought seafood to inland tables when fresh options were limited. The sauce, made from butter, flour, and milk or cream, provided a rich base for the shrimp and whatever vegetables joined the party, usually peas for color and texture. The key was not overcooking the shrimp, keeping them tender and sweet. Served over buttery toast points or fluffy rice, Shrimp Wiggle delivered protein and elegance in a format that was easy to prepare and serve. The dish proved that sometimes the silliest names hid the most delicious realities. Skillet fried corn. Fresh corn cut from the cob and fried in butter with a touch of cream created a side dish that tasted like summer itself. This simple preparation let the sweet corn speak for itself while adding richness and depth that made it worthy of the Sunday table. The corn kernels sizzled in butter, releasing their natural sugars and creating those slightly caramelized edges that added complexity to their sweetness. A splash of cream at the end created a light sauce that brought everything together without masking the corn's natural flavor. This dish required timing. The corn needed to cook just long enough to heat through and develop flavor without becoming tough or losing its bright color. When done right, skillet fried corn delivered the essence of fresh corn, enhanced by the magic of simple technique. Macaroni Salad. Macaroni salad brought pasta to the picnic table, combining tender elbow macaroni with a creamy dressing and whatever vegetables the cook had on hand. This versatile side dish adapted to every season and every taste, making it a reliable addition to Sunday dinner spreads. The pasta had to be cooked perfectly, tender, but still with enough structure to hold up to the dressing and mixing. The dressing balanced mayonnaise with vinegar or lemon juice, creating a tangy base that clung to every curve of the macaroni. Additions varied by region and personal preference. Hard-boiled eggs, celery, bell peppers, onions, or even tuna for a more substantial salad. But every version shared that essential quality of being better the next day when all the flavors had time to meld together. Deviled eggs. Deviled eggs elevated the humble hard-boiled egg into party food, transforming simple ingredients into elegant appetizers that disappeared as fast as they appeared on the table. The smooth, creamy filling piped into pristine white ovals looked fancy enough for company, but tasted like home. The secret was in the balance. Enough mayonnaise to make the filling creamy without making it heavy. Enough mustard to add tang without overwhelming the delicate egg flavor. A dash of paprika on top added color and a hint of smokiness that tied everything together. These little bites of perfection required patience and technique. The eggs had to be cooked just right. No green rings around the yolks, no rubbery whites. The filling needed to be smooth and properly seasoned. But when done right, deviled eggs turned any gathering into a special occasion. Coleslaw Supreme. Coleslaw Supreme elevated simple cabbage into something special, combining crispy vegetables with a dressing that balanced sweet and tangy in perfect harmony. This wasn't the watery, flavorless coleslaw of cafeterias. This was the kind that made people ask for the recipe. The cabbage, shredded fine but not mushy, provided the foundation for a supporting cast of carrots, onions, and sometimes bell peppers. The dressing combined mayonnaise with sugar and vinegar, creating a coating that enhanced rather than masked the vegetables' natural flavors. The key was in the preparation, salting the cabbage to draw out excess moisture, then mixing with a dressing that had been carefully balanced for flavor. The result was a slaw that stayed crisp, looked beautiful, and provided the perfect cool counterpoint to rich Sunday dinner fare. Pineapple upside-down cake. Pineapple upside-down cake was dinner and dessert in one, a show-stopping finale that combined the sweetness of caramelized pineapple with tender yellow cake. flip dramatically at the table, this dessert never failed to impress with its perfect arrangement of golden pineapple rings and ruby maraschino cherries. The magic happened in the cast iron skillet, where butter and brown sugar caramelized into a sticky golden sauce that would become the cake's gorgeous topping. Pineapple rings nestled into this sweet base, each center filled with a bright red cherry that added color and tartness. The cake batter poured carefully over the fruit, baked until golden and springy to the touch. The real drama came in the flipping. That moment when the skillet was inverted onto a serving plate, revealing the beautiful fruit mosaic that had been hiding underneath. Angel Biscuits. Angel Biscuits combined the best of biscuits and yeast rolls, using both baking powder and yeast to create impossibly light, fluffy bread that seemed to float off the plate. These heavenly creations required patience, but rewarded it with bread that lived up to their celestial name. The dough, enriched with buttermilk and butter, rose slowly before being rolled and cut into perfect circles. The double leavening created a texture that was both flaky like a biscuit and tender like a roll, with a flavor that was purely southern comfort. Hot from the oven and split open to reveal steam rising from their fluffy interiors, Angel Biscuits begged for butter and honey or jam. They turned any meal into a special occasion, proving that sometimes the simplest pleasures were the most sublime. Tomato Soup Cake. Tomato soup cake proved that innovation in the kitchen often came from unexpected places, transforming Campbell's tomato soup into a moist, spiced cake that became a family favorite. This Depression-era invention showed how creative cooks could make magic from pantry staples. The soup provided moisture and a subtle vegetable sweetness that complemented warm spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves. The result was a cake with a texture similar to carrot cake, but with its own unique flavor profile that kept people guessing about the secret ingredient. Topped with cream cheese frosting or served plain with a dusting of powdered sugar, tomato soup cake delivered comfort and surprise in equal measure. It proved that the best recipes sometimes came from necessity, creativity, and the willingness to try something completely different. Mock apple pie. Mock apple pie achieved the impossible, creating convincing apple pie flavor using crackers instead of apples. This Depression-era innovation showed how creative cooks could satisfy cravings even when key ingredients weren't available or affordable. Ritz crackers, broken into pieces and layered in a pie shell, were transformed by a syrup made from water, sugar, cream of tartar, and lemon juice. The crackers absorbed the liquid and, combined with cinnamon and nutmeg, created a filling that remarkably resembled spiced apples. The finished pie, with its flaky crust and sweet spiced filling, fooled many people into thinking they were eating the real thing. Mock apple pie proved that ingenuity and creativity could overcome any obstacle, turning limitation into innovation. Chicken a la King. Chicken a la King elevated leftover poultry into an elegant dish worthy of company, combining tender chicken pieces with vegetables in a rich cream sauce served over toast points or pastry shells. This dish brought restaurant-style sophistication to the home kitchen. The cream sauce was the star, a careful balance of butter, flour, and cream that created a velvety base for the chicken and vegetables. Peas and pimentos added color and texture, while a touch of sherry or white wine provided depth and complexity. Served over buttery toast points or in delicate pastry shells, chicken a la King looked and tasted like fine dining. This was the kind of dish that made Sunday dinner feel special, transforming simple ingredients into something that seemed much more complicated than it actually was. Tuna Noodle Skillet. Tuna Noodle Skillet brought the beloved casserole to the stovetop, combining egg noodles with tuna, vegetables, and a creamy sauce in one pan for easy preparation and cleanup. This simplified version delivered all the comfort of the original with less time and effort. The dish started with cooking the noodles until just tender, then combining them with canned tuna, frozen peas, and a sauce made from cream of mushroom soup and milk. Everything cooked together in one skillet, allowing flavors to meld while creating minimal mess. Topped with crushed crackers or breadcrumbs and briefly broiled for a golden top, tuna noodle skillet provided the same satisfaction as its casserole cousin. This was comfort food for busy families, proving that convenience didn't have to mean sacrificing flavor or satisfaction. Jiffy corn pudding. Jiffy corn pudding combined boxed cornbread mix with corn kernels and dairy to create a side dish that straddled the line between bread and vegetable. This easy dish delivered maximum impact with minimal effort, making it perfect for busy Sunday dinner preparations. The pudding achieved its characteristic texture through the combination of whole corn kernels and creamed corn, held together by eggs and enriched with sour cream or butter. The cornbread mix provided structure and a slightly sweet flavor that complemented the corn perfectly. Baked until golden and slightly puffed, Jiffy corn pudding emerged from the oven looking impressive and tasting even better. This dish proved that convenience products could be the foundation for something genuinely delicious when used thoughtfully and creatively. Cornbread waffles. Cornbread waffles brought Southern comfort to the breakfast table, transforming traditional cornbread batter into crispy-edged, fluffy-centered waffles that begged for butter and syrup. This creative twist on two classics created something entirely new and wonderful. The waffle iron's heat and texture created edges that were delightfully crispy, while keeping the interior tender and moist. The cornmeal added texture and a subtle sweetness that paired beautifully with maple syrup or honey. These waffles worked equally well for breakfast or as a side dish at dinner, proving their versatility. They showed how traditional recipes could be adapted and transformed into something fresh while maintaining their essential character and comfort food appeal. Apple butter yogurt parfait. Apple butter yogurt parfait layered spiced apple butter with creamy yogurt and crunchy granola to create a dessert that felt both indulgent and virtuous. This simple combination achieved complex flavors through the contrast of textures and temperatures. The apple butter, thick and richly spiced, provided sweetness and warmth that complemented the cool tartness of plain or vanilla yogurt. Granola added crunch and additional sweetness, while also providing visual appeal through its varied textures and colors. Assembled in clear glasses to show off the beautiful layers, these parfaits could be prepared ahead of time and pulled out when needed. They proved that elegant desserts didn't require complicated techniques. Sometimes the most beautiful presentations were also the simplest. Beef stroganoff over egg noodles. Tender strips of beef swimming in a rich, creamy mushroom sauce over buttery egg noodles created restaurant elegance at home. The secret was browning the beef properly before adding sour cream at the very end to prevent curdling. Mushrooms added earthy depth, while onions provided sweetness that balanced the tangy sour cream. The dish came together quickly, but tasted like it had been simmering for hours. Wide egg noodles provided the perfect foundation for soaking up every drop of that luxurious sauce. This was the meal that made ordinary Sundays feel special, transforming inexpensive cuts of beef into something worthy of celebration. Stuffed bell peppers. Hollow bell peppers became edible bowls for a hearty mixture of ground beef, rice, and seasonings that baked until the peppers were tender and the filling was perfectly seasoned. The peppers themselves added sweet, slightly smoky flavor, while the rice stretched the meat to feed the whole family. Topped with cheese and baked until bubbly, they looked beautiful on the plate and delivered satisfying comfort in every bite. Each pepper was like its own individual meal, making dinner feel special and personal. The combination of textures and flavors created a complete meal that needed nothing more than a simple salad alongside. Shepherd's pie. Ground lamb topped with creamy mashed potatoes and baked until golden created the ultimate comfort food that satisfied the heartiest appetites. The meat layer, seasoned with herbs and mixed with vegetables, provided rich, savory flavor, while the potato topping added creamy comfort that made everyone ask for seconds. When baked, the potatoes developed a golden crust that gave way to fluffy interior beneath. The dish was practical and delicious, using ingredients that most families had on hand. It was hearty enough to satisfy working men, while elegant enough to serve to company, making it perfect for Sunday dinners that needed to impress. Country fried steak with white gravy. Cube steak, dredged in seasoned flour and fried until golden, then smothered in creamy white gravy made from the pan drippings, created the ultimate Southern comfort food. The coating provided satisfying crunch, while the gravy added richness that transformed tough meat into tender perfection. Served alongside mashed potatoes and green beans, it was a meal that stuck to your ribs and warmed your soul. The key was making the gravy in the same pan to capture all those browned bits that added deep flavor. This was food that celebrated abundance and comfort, perfect for Sunday afternoons when time moved slowly. Liver and onions. Sweet caramelized onions transformed beef liver into a meal that even skeptics learned to love when prepared with patience and care. The liver, when not overcooked, remained tender and rich, while the onions added sweetness that balanced its intense flavor. Served with mashed potatoes and bacon, it provided nutrition that kept families healthy during leaner times. The dish required technique to avoid tough, bitter results, but when done right, it delivered satisfaction that modern meals rarely match. It connected families to their heritage and reminded them that waste was not an option when money was tight. Beef pot roast with vegetables. A tough cut of beef transformed into fork-tender perfection when braised low and slow with carrots, potatoes, and onions that absorbed all the rich, beefy flavors. The roast emerged from the oven, falling apart at the touch of a fork, while the vegetables became sweet and savory from their time bathing in the cooking juices. The natural gravy formed during cooking needed little more than thickening to become the perfect sauce. This was the meal that filled the house with incredible aromas that called everyone home. It proved that patience and simple ingredients could create magic that fed both body and soul. Chicken pot pie. Flaky pastry crust enclosed tender chicken and vegetables in a creamy sauce that represented comfort food at its finest. The filling, rich with carrots, peas, and celery, provided complete nutrition, while the crust added buttery indulgence that made the meal feel special. When cut, steam escaped to reveal the treasure within, while the crust shattered to reveal its flaky layers. This was labor-intensive cooking that showed love through effort, creating a dish that was both beautiful and delicious. The combination of textures and flavors created a meal that satisfied on every level, perfect for bringing families together around the Sunday table. Swiss steak. Tough round steak became tender and flavorful when braised in tomato sauce with onions and peppers until it practically fell apart. The long, slow cooking process broke down the tough fibers, while the acidic tomatoes helped tenderize the meat further. Bell peppers and onions added sweetness and color that made the dish as beautiful as it was delicious. Served over rice or mashed potatoes, it provided hearty satisfaction that kept families full and happy. This was economical cooking that transformed inexpensive cuts into something special through technique and time. The result was comfort food that proved good things came to those who waited. Tuna casserole with potato chip topping. Egg noodles mixed with tuna, cream soup, and vegetables, then topped with crushed potato chips, created a dish that was both humble and satisfying. The potato chips provided unexpected crunch that contrasted beautifully with the creamy noodles beneath. Frozen peas added color and nutrition, while the cream soup bound everything together in comforting richness. This was pantry cooking at its best, creating a complete meal from ingredients that most families kept on hand. The casserole could be assembled hours ahead and baked when needed, making it perfect for busy Sunday schedules. It proved that simple ingredients could create extraordinary comfort when combined with creativity. Tuna noodle casserole. Every American kitchen once knew the magic of combining canned tuna, egg noodles, and cream of mushroom soup into something greater than its humble parts. This casserole ruled supreme during the 1950s and 60s, when families needed hearty meals that could stretch ingredients and feed hungry mouths without breaking the bank. The dish emerged from the Great Depression era's philosophy of making do with what you had, but it found its golden age in post-war suburbia. Mothers would layer the mixture with crushed potato chips on top, creating a satisfying crunch that made children forget they were eating something economical. The beauty lay in its simplicity. No fancy techniques required, just honest ingredients transformed into comfort food that could feed a family of 6 for under $2. Beef stroganoff. Beef stroganoff arrived in American kitchens through a fascinating journey from Russian aristocracy to middle-class dinner tables. The dish represented sophistication and worldliness when exotic cuisines were rare in suburban America. Families felt elegant serving tender strips of beef in a rich, sour cream sauce over egg noodles, often reserving it for special occasions or when company came to dinner. The preparation required patience, slowly browning the beef, sautéing mushrooms until golden, and carefully combining the sour cream to prevent curdling. Many home cooks added their own touches, incorporating onion soup mix for deeper flavor or using cream of mushroom soup as a shortcut. The result was a dish that transformed everyday ingredients into something that felt luxurious, making ordinary Tuesday nights feel like celebrations. Chicken a la king. Chicken a la king represented the height of 1950s, entertaining elegance, transforming leftover chicken into a creamy, sophisticated dish that impressed guests and satisfied families. The dish typically featured chunks of tender chicken, colorful bell peppers, and pimientos suspended in a rich cream sauce that was spooned over toast points, rice, or biscuits. Its origins traced back to fancy hotel restaurants, but home cooks adapted it for their own kitchens, making it accessible while maintaining its air of refinement. The key to perfect chicken a la king lay in the sauce, a careful balance of chicken stock, cream, and seasonings that coated each ingredient without overwhelming the delicate flavors. Many families served it for Sunday dinners or when entertaining, as it could be prepared ahead and kept warm, allowing hosts to spend time with their guests rather than slaving over the stove. Chicken divan. Chicken divan emerged from the elegant divan Parisian restaurant but found its true home in American casserole dishes, combining chicken and broccoli in a sophisticated cream sauce that elevated everyday ingredients.